92 minutes. So, do you think, as a child in school and social settings, that your background was honored, like being Dominican, you know?
I wouldn't say honored. It was recognized.
Mm-hmm.
It was recognized, definitely recognized. I went to a school that majority of the children were Hispanic, and a large part of those Hispanics were Dominican. But I wouldn't say honored. Like, we never celebrated the Dominican independence. We never had a history on like learning our culture. But some of the teachers were Dominican, so we had that talk. Sometimes we would talk in Spanish, and it was okay. The principal was he lived in the community for a very long time, so he was very familiar with the Dominican culture, and he spoke Spanish to the parents. So when he was American, Caucasian, so he was very comfortable with speaking to the parents, making the parents feel comfortable. Like, that was just a priority. But I wouldn't say they honored our culture. We didn't have. I don't remember doing anything where I had to draw my flag or wear my skirt. You know, like, you know, wear the traditional Dominican skirts for the carnivals. Nothing like that. But it was very. You felt comfortable. Like, you know, if you wanted to speak Spanish, you could. You didn't have to feel like you were only speaking English in school. And I think that was it. It wasn't.
And then in your school, I was going to ask you, were you able to socialize with kids from your culture? But you just mentioned that.
Yes.
But what about kids from different races and different cultures? Were you able to hang out with them, socialize with them, learn about their culture, or no?
So in elementary school, there were very few kids that were outside the Hispanic culture. I think I had outside the Hispanic culture, very limited. Like, I think I grew up in elementary school, all my friends being Hispanic, either Puerto Rican, South American, or Dominican, and the school was very small. There were only 2 classes, so you literally got stuck with the same children from 1st grade to 8th grade. So that was interesting, because then you always had the same friends, and it wasn't like a lot of new kids came into the school. You know, it was one of those tiny schools that you kind of went in and went out all together at the same time. I think my first exposure to different cultures was in high school, because I went to high school down in Chelsea.
Okay.
So that's when I realized that people lived downtown. Like, I always felt like uptown, you know, uptown Manhattan was like, that's the residential area. Downtown Manhattan was like business area. So I never realized until I was like 14 and I was in high school going in Chelsea, and my friend is like, no, I live on 12th Avenue. I'm like, on 20-something street. That's a business area, or, you know, like rich white people live there. That's my ignorance at the time. So then in high school, I got exposed to a lot of different culture. I had, you know, friends from my Italian backgrounds. I had friends from, you know, a lot of African American friends I met mostly were in high school, in different parts of South America that I wasn't familiar with. Like Mexican friends, I think I met them in high school. You know, like in my Catholic school, elementary school, they were mostly like Colombian and Ecuadorians. And then I met different South American friends, and that's when I started realizing there's a bigger world out there. And that's when I started bringing different friends home. So my father I would bring friends home, and my father would automatically be like, hello, in Spanish, and talk in Spanish. I'm like, no, Dad, she's not Dominican. You know, he's like, oh, I mean, she's American. She doesn't speak Spanish. He's like, oh, okay. And that was like the first shock to my parents. They're like, oh, okay, she's meeting different people. But that was very welcoming. It wasn't an issue. But high school, I think, I was a slow bloomer in that area.
Oh, okay. But that's it. Thank you. That was a great answer.
In all honesty.